This week, we bring you a piece of original reporting which is exclusive to the Underreported. We have obtained a secret list of hundreds of architects who are being accused of sexual harassment. I apologize in advance for the harsh language which is necessary for this story. This list, titled Shitty Architecture Men, is an architecture-specific follow-up of the Shitty Media Men list, which led to the firings of men from The Atlantic, BuzzFeed, and others. The Underreported has obtained a copy of this list, which, to the best of our research, has never been published by a media outlet before. Because there are hundreds of entries, many of which cannot be independently verified, we have decided to confirm the existence of the list and show you examples that are indicative of the document as a whole. The list has, at present, approximately 300 entries. Its creator is anonymous, and entries are added to the list by emailing its creator. The creator identifies with the pseudonym Josephine Baker, an agent of the French resistance movement in the 1960s and 70s. We reached out to the administrators of the list for comment, but did not hear back prior to this broadcast. What we found to be unique about this list is both its depth and its organization. There's a segment called Articles and Resources, which details help for survivors, those who have been accused, and a running tab of news articles about those who have been named on the list. But the heart of the document is its list of names and allegations. Top architects in academia and private practice are identified with specific examples. There are frozen entries, all of which have been identified by the list as having substantial evidence or multiple accusers, and new entries, which are obviously more recent. We will now read a couple of examples taken directly from the list. Because we cannot independently verify these stories, and given that they are anonymously submitted, we will not name the accused. But these entries are indicative of the hundreds of stories on this list. One accusation against a prominent Southern college professor reads as follows. The first accuser, quote, made a joke about one of his students being gang raped during a studio discussion, end quote. The second accuser, quote, inappropriate touching and comments after lecture dinner, end quote. The third accuser, quote, I repeatedly saw him make comments about women's appearances, would often come into my office to ask a question and position himself behind my desk so he could view my screen and block my chair so I could not move or stand and he was fully in control of my computer, end quote. And another example, this time about another prominent name in architecture in the Northeast. The first accuser, quote, he unexpectedly professed that he was absolutely, overwhelmingly, completely in love with me, a younger coworker, despite having a wife who soon after became pregnant. After he was fired, he still approached me on my commute home and stalked my social media, end quote. To note this document's real-world effects, we'll end with a quote from the list creator, who spoke anonymously with the architecture blog Fast Co-Design on March 15th. Quote, there's this idea that architecture is a magical, important contribution to the world that is undervalued. We're trained to view suffering as deeply related to the work, so something like harassment is easy to dismiss as part of the sacrifice. And even when it's absolutely wrenching and not easy to dismiss, the culture of genius in architecture remains. Many firms are structured around a great man with a singular vision, which lowly employees are tasked with carrying out. It's very top-down. This can create power imbalances that make junior employees vulnerable to exploitation, whether it's harassment, pay inequality, or something else, end quote.